Welcome to the Husk Guys Podcast. Oh, yeah!
What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday, September 11th, and we say this every week. We've said it a lot of times, but this time we're serious. We are officially all the way back. The boys are back. Huskers are back. We are fresh off probably the most dominating victory that we've seen in person, because we haven't seen any victories in person in a long time, and we were there. So today we were talking about Deion. We're talking about Colorado. We're going to do a little rundown of the game, our experience, our tailgate, everything that went into it, how we beat Deion, why we beat Deion, and then a little Northern Iowa preview. Should be a
That's right.
Should be a good night here. What do you think? How are we doing?
Oh my God! Yeah, we both flew in for the game. For those that don't follow us or didn't catch it, and this was. I was also at 2014 Miami. This definitely probably surpassed it as like my favorite game of the last decade, and that was exactly a decade ago. So it's been a little while. Oh yeah,
it was a good one. That game was nuts.
And yeah, absolutely bananas. It was awesome. This was my favorite experience that I've had in quite some time, and I'm excited to get into it. The Colorado hatred on Twitter it's not just us, and it is going very viral. So it's been an interesting week.
It is. Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about where's this guy going. All right. Quick word from our sponsors and our promotions. Guys, check out Pipeline Jerky, pipeline-jerky.com. Check it out. We got the shirt. We just did a huge tailgate, which we're going to talk about. Buy some bags of jerky. Every bag supports the offensive line. The offensive line has been playing outstanding. So you got to support the boys. They're doing a great job. They're blocking holes. They're doing they're bringing back the pipeline. The pipeline was there. The original pipeline was at the game. They're pumped about it. They're pumped about the brand. They're pumped about the jerky. So check it out, pipeline-jerky.com. And we've got a bunch of cool stuff going on. We've got a sweepstakes, which I'll show you on the next slide, with a big partnership with Omaha Steaks. They've been awesome. We did a tailgate, which we're going to talk about. We've got Pipeline Steak gift boxes that we did for Father's Day. They're coming up again for Christmas. We're hosting dinners. We're hosting lunches with the line. It's a great partnership. Omaha Steaks has been a great partner of ours. So check out our site, pipeline-jerky.com, as well as the huskguystore.com. Enter the Beat the Buffs sweepstakes, business.omahasteaks.com/beatbuffs24. We are extending this through Friday, with the winners being announced Friday or Saturday or potentially Sunday after the game. I'll have to check on that. Enter for a chance to win a $1,000 gift assortment, including free jerky, free Omaha Steaks, and free Nebraska brewing at business.omahasteaks.com/beatbuffs24, because we did beat the Buffs. So you guys got to enter your name in there. Check it out. Get yourself some free gear, free merch, free jerky, free steaks. A lot of really good stuff from the great partners of ours, Omaha Steaks and Nebraska brewing. And that brings us to the tailgate that we had. So we want to start tonight's podcast, and talk about our game day experience. So with our partnership with Omaha Steaks and with Nebraska Brewing, we kind of all came together, and we were dreaming up all the different ways that we could continue our partnership and the positive energy for the program. We decided on throwing a massive, massive tailgate before the game. And it was awesome. Nebraska Brewing brought all the beer. Those are the guys behind No Block, No Rock. So that whole group was there. Omaha Steaks brought steaks. Delicious steaks that we got to taste and try. It's fantastic. As well as, we brought the jerky, obviously, and they brought some pizzas too. Really good crew there. We had a great group of the podcasting community there. We had the Go Big Red Cast there. We had Corn Nation. We had Corn Crazed. We had Jim in Minnesota. A lot of great guys there that all kind of came together. Pick Six previews, as well as the news, WWT, and a bunch of others. So starting here, shall we dive in by setting the stage on how pumped let's talk about vibes. Let's talk about energy. Let's talk about what was happening before this game.
God, seriously, it was intense. It started. I will say it started with a little hiccup. Like right when we got there, our friends throwing this thing on, were struggling building a grill, and I was not getting a good vibe there to begin with. They were building a grill that we had to build at the last second, and I'm like, guys, is this a professional tailgate or what? everything turned around very quickly. I mean, they had the chefs cooking. I mean, just a massive griddle. They were firing up pizzas, steaks, 3 different types of steak. Nebraska Brewing brought way too much beer. I mean, just like an absolute.
Copious.
I mean, I don't know what they were estimating for, but their definition of, hey, this is how much beer you need for this small sized party is a little different from mine. Regardless, we consumed it. We had a great time. Passed out a lot of pipeline. It was fantastic. People were coming in from all over. It was just really awesome to see a lot of different Husker influencers, different Husker voices and stuff, all kind of stopping by. And some people I had just heard their podcasting voice. It was like Matt from the Go Big Redcast. I was like, wait a sec, I know who you are, but I don't actually know who you are. So it was just a great time, like putting faces to internet voices and everything, and meeting people in person. The vibes just continued to go up and up and up. It was awesome.
You forget that. I've got a ton of internet friends that my wife gives me a relentlessly hard time for. She's always just like, "Who are you texting? What is going on?" I'm like, "Wow, these are my friends from the internet." And she'll give internet friends, like fake friends. I'm like, no, they're real people. I just never met them. And so we got to meet a bunch of them at the set, which is awesome. So that's totally fun. The other big piece for me, and this was special for me, is I brought my 2 kids, obviously, and it was their first game. So my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old was their first Huskers game. I mean, what an absolute unbelievable experience to bring them to.
You took a big risk there, by the way.
Big time risk. Big time risk, but I needed it. I needed them to see it. I needed them to feel it. But for them, and I think what really came through in the experience, because they'd never seen it and they never really experienced it, they're like, wow, everybody, it kind of blew their mind that everybody was cheering for Nebraska. Everybody's here. Everybody's so excited. Everybody's yelling and cheering, and people just keep saying "Go Big Red," and people keep saying "Go Huskers" and stuff. So it's the stuff you take for granted that
they learned some other words too, didn't they?
They learned a lot of words that unfortunately
it was educational.
We can't repeat on this podcast. And their uncles specifically one on this podcast, one not on the podcast yet. We're teaching them all sorts of stuff.
Wow. Some of them were happy words.
Most of them were happy. But no, I think it's the stuff you don't, you just assume everybody knows. Like, when you yell out "Go Big Red," somebody responds back "Go Big Red," and they were just blown away that, like, no matter when you said it to any stranger, whoever it was, they responded back "Go Big Red." Like, that just kind of blew their brain. So it was awesome to see. But you could just feel it. I mean, the electricity in the air. To me, it was, there's been a handful of those games. Maybe Miami was one of them. Maybe previous Iowa games. This to me was different. This felt like it felt different I think maybe it's because we played well against UTEP, because, we're coming in 1-0, because it's Colorado, because we hate Colorado. It really did feel like there was a ratcheted up energy around campus. People were just buzzing. I mean, we got to the tailgate at 12. It was packed.
Yeah, it was.
Game was at 6:30.
Yeah.
I mean, people were tailgating 6, 7, 8 hours for a 6:30 kick. That's nuts. Like,
and it just got more and more packed. Yeah. I mean, there's small things that you forget about the experience. And we talked about it on the way down. Like the whole Lincoln experience starts with game day traffic, which is not a fun sounding thing for a lot of people, but like seeing just this parade of red streaming into Lincoln. And then right when you get into the city, it is all red. You're rolling down 10th Street. You take the exit, you start hearing the music, smelling the smells, and it was noon for a 6:30 game. I was like, are we late to this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it shuts the state down, which in this game in particular felt like everybody was in unison of like, all right, we got to get to this game. We got to win this game. But I will say, I mean, you saw me before the game. I was nervous. I think I just wanted to win this so freaking badly that it just was consuming me of like, I wanted to win because my kid's first game. I wanted to win because I just wanted to get over the hump one time. I'm so sick of Colorado. I truly think, truly, they have the worst fans, just awful, awful people like across the board that are their fans, that are online, in person. Every person I met at the game was just like an angry, elitist person that I just really didn't care for. So all of those things together, I was like, we cannot screw this thing up. I guess we can jump into the game from here, but I was yeah, I was nervous that, what if Shedeur takes over the game? What if Travis Hunter takes over the game? Like, what if it's a classic? We've lost 3 straight to them in just excruciating fashion. So who
Yeah.
knows, right? It was like, I don't know what's going to happen going into this game.
A crazy stat that I saw too was we were 3-28 on major network television in our last 31,
Oh my
and
God.
0 for the last 5 in night games on major TV. So it's basically, you put us in prime time, and we had been falling on our face recently. But
Oh, it's just
yeah, the
diabolical.
vibes.
What they say, 6 million people watch the game. You see that?
Yeah, huge numbers.
So 6 million people, and that to me, that's a great point, because like 6 million people watching us finally win changes everything. Like, we have had primetime games every year for the last 10 years, because everybody puts us in primetime because they know we're going to watch, but we screw it up every time. It's Michigan, it's Ohio State, it's Wisconsin, it's Iowa. It's like every single game.
Yeah, I mean that's what ends up
anytime, a national
making
audience,
you
we
that
fall on our faces.
right. Yep. You end up getting left as this laughing stock of just like, hey, every time I've watched Nebraska, and it's like, yeah, well, you're watching literally our worst games.
Yeah.
But it's true. And so that was the reason that I was nervous too, is I thought it was more on ourselves and a little bit less on Colorado. Like, looking at the personnel, I knew we were deeper. I said before the game, our O-line should be able to beat their D-line. Our D-line should be able to beat their O-line. Like, the only matchup that was of concern at all was their receivers versus our D-backs.
Yeah.
And then just talking to like everybody else before the game too. I don't know. I like, despite being a persistent Kool-Aid drinker, I mean, I'm like hooked up to an IV at all times, and I was not pouring out nearly the confidence that others at our tailgate were.
Yeah.
And so the longer I was at the tailgate, the more confidence I was gaining.
Yeah.
By the end of the tailgate, I was like, I felt like the game was over. I was like,
That's
we
funny.
got this in the bag.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was everybody predicted a blowout. It was crazy, and I was like, but we're Nebraska. We haven't done that. Like, everybody was so I would agree. Everybody was so confident. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What makes you so confident? I mean, objectively on paper, we should have won. We outclassed them in every facet. I just was like, yes, but we don't.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and then like I mean, the next thing. So our family, we walk in with the band. They were right on key. They were right on tune. There was no issues. Trombones were great. Tubas were doing their thing. Your kids were loving it. The cheers and just the crowd along the road was like, you can sometimes tell based on that crowd, like how lit this atmosphere is going to be. And it was like 3 and 4 people deep, just like lining up to clap the band in. It was just a madhouse beforehand. Stadium was packed 40 minutes before, and this was one of the coolest tunnel walks for me to see in memory, because the 94 season for us, for me and you, is probably like one of the very, very first that I can remember, just based on my age, and probably you too. And so they put the side-by-side tunnel walk of the 1994 team on one side and then ours on the other. And like, I think it was at Rucker, I think that they had maybe in like the very front
Rucker and
of
Osborne,
yeah. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
They had the 94 team lead everybody out, and they were all waiting there to clap them on. Like, that sent the place, I mean, just through the roof.
I mean, it was all everything was hitting me all at once, of like just being in the stadium. I mean, the full circle for me is having my 7-year-old there, right? So I was 7 in 1994, and to have my 7-year-old on my shoulders and my 5-year-old there. And then the 94 team they're the original Pipeline. They're who we named, Pipeline Jerky after. That I've had the opportunity to meet and work with the original Pipeline, Aaron Grant.
And now some of their kids are on the field.
Well, right, and Sty and Zadishka and Aaron Graham and Uyghur, and those guys were like legends. Joel Wilkes, the original Pipeline guys, and so they're coming on the field. And Tommy Frazier was there, who's my my icon, my god. Like, that guy was my number one with my 7-year-old there. So it was everything kind of hit me all at once, and then it was just so loud. I think I was probably hypersensitive to it because my kids were there, but it was everything was loud. The band was loud, the people were loud, the stadium was loud, the tailgate was loud. Standing on the field was like, that was the loudest tunnel walk I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it just was ruckus.
Yeah, I mean, and then yeah, and I know you guys went up to your seats and like that you had almost a moment of panic because in that first series, I mean, like from the opening kick, you're absolutely right. Like it was deafening on that in their first series on the field.
Well, I actually what this is my funny. I mean, now that I'm reflecting on it, I know it's fun. I'm glad I have my voice back. I legitimately I could not say a word at work the last 2 days. Like I could not say anything, which looks sort of embarrassing. So I'm like a
Calling
grown
in
man.
sick.
Yeah, I'm like a grown man, and they're like, "Are you sick?" I was like, "Oh no, I was just cheering at a football game." They're like, "Are you? What do you mean? You're like a grown man with children. Like, what do you lost your voice cheering at a football game?"
Like, no, no,
Like it's
no.
not. It wasn't. It
I was
wasn't just like a
cheering. I
yeah. I
wasn't
was no.
cheering.
I was going after it.
I was
Well,
really cheering.
yeah, I was going after it. Yeah. So you got to sit. Andrew got to sit in our dad's seats, which are on the based on the 50-yard line, 10 rows up, just absolutely outstanding seats. And I bought like the cheap seats just because I was like, I just got to get in the stadium. Took my daughter up. It was 62 rows up, and what stands was in? North stands.
North, yeah.
North.
I mean that place.
And I'm going up
just a frat house.
62. Yes. I mean 62 flights. I get up there, and I'm exhausted. I'm sweating, and it's a frat house. Average age is like
A
24.
frat house of all ages, though. Like there's
Of all ages, but
there's a couple dudes
people,
that are just diehards that are just
I guess
getting
you
in there.
forget because dad's seats are kind of in the blue hair section, and people are sit. They're a little bit more calm. They're a little more. They sit and watch the game. Nobody up there was sitting down at all. So we get up there, and I'm like with my 7-year-old, and I immediately get up there. I'm like, oh, we have a problem. This is gonna be. We've got a problem. I mean, we've got F-bombs flying like right from the start. We got like people are like losing them. Like people are booing. They're screaming. Like it is like deafening. I can't even like. I'm trying to talk to her, and I can't. She can't even hear me. I'm like, oh, we'll leave soon. What? Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But I will say, and that's where I want to jump to your. I mean, let's jump to this thing first before we get to the ending. This first, because then I rewatched the game. Have you rewatched it yet?
I mean the extended highlights, but I haven't watched the entire game.
Oh, I rewatched the whole game twice. I'm like insane. It's probably not, I mean, it's my favorite game I've seen. His first like 10 plays goes uninterrupted without a commercial break.
Yeah,
and
it was awesome.
So you go like that first play right off the opening kickoff, followed by a 3-and-out, and that 3-and-out had I mean, right from the start. What are the 3 plays? It was a incomplete pass, 2 incomplete passes, and then a sack by Todd Robinson, which one of them he got a hand on it. The place was going literally decibels I've never heard in my lifetime. With it was like Ty Robinson's in the backfield all 3 plays. He sacks him for a loss of 9 yards down to the Colorado 21 on the 3rd play. That place was bedlam, and we're maybe 30 seconds into the game. It is. The stadium was shaking.
Oh, it was awesome. There were like, there's always a couple of fans that like haven't totally done a Nebraska game. We had like a couple, like in West Stadium, it's pretty, you get some people that are in there that are like, just like, hey, yeah, just thought I would, buy these uber expensive seats with this guy and go on a first date. And there's people like around me that were like, there was 2 right in front of us that were somewhat quieter. And during that first series, when I'm, standing in the aisle, like waving my hat around and sweatshirt, they looked shocked. I mean, they looked like, what have we gotten ourselves into? This place is an absolute zoo. There's people high-fiving. I mean, it was intense. And like, honestly, from that opening series, I don't know what it was, but there was something about like just how bad their O-line looked right away and just how good our defense looked right away that I was like, I feel very good about how this game.
Well, it was everything. So that it happened so quickly where they go 3-and-out with us just obliterating their offensive line on all 3 plays with a knockdown followed by a sack. But then to be able to run the ball right away, you're like, oh wow, wait. So we are truly dominating both lines of scrimmage, like dominating right away to turn that drive right away into a, Dylan. I mean, the biggest play of that drive, this first drive, is Dylan Rayla scrambles for 12 yards on 3rd and 10. If you remember that play, that brought the house down. But again, we're no TV timeouts. They're just letting it ride. And it goes from that, his 12-yard run, and then it goes 8 yards to Ja'Cory Barney, 4 yards to Jamal Banks. And then this is the Dowdell play where he broke Shiloh Sanders' arm, which nobody in the stadium obviously knew this. But that play to me was another like set the tone play because
oh my gosh,
he didn't make a move.
Could have run away from him. He really didn't.
He didn't make a move at all. And like this guy in front of me was like, he's like, that wasn't a tackle. That was like a mauling. And like there's so many statements of like, one, Ty Robinson is here, two, the offensive line is here to just maul you. And it's not just the offensive line, but Dowdell is going to absolutely obliterate you. Like, I mean, that is a dog move to just run right over the top of him.
I think he literally saw him and he was like, I don't even care about yards right now. I am just going to run directly through you.
I mean, unbelievable. But I think that's the kind of stuff that that's the stuff that we used to do to teams, way back in the day. We used to just come in and opening kickoff, they'd be like, I have never been hit like that in my life. Even it's sound they've never heard before. It's getting smacked in the mouth right away. Like, we just haven't done that in forever. And so to do that on the opening drive, I think everybody in the stadium felt pretty confident about it. Still felt nervous because you're like, I don't know, what if we still screw this thing up? But then, that continued. So like that literally was like no TV timeout, 3 and out, followed by a touchdown. The stadium, I mean, that's probably the loudest I've heard it, except for, and I want to fast forward through to this, so then it goes, downs, followed by, so they go 3 and out again, which again, the stadium is like going absolutely, ballistic at this point. Another sack. So he's been sacked twice. This time Nash. But then we punt it deep. This punt here, we're punting super deep and pinned them at the 2. And now this one, this is the Tommy Hill. My God. I mean, that you want to think it was loud in that stadium for that first series. This is hands down the loudest I've ever heard any place on earth. Is this play. The Tommy Hill pick. So I just have never
I mean, this was it was I mean, just like firing up a jet engine right next to your head or something. Like you couldn't hear anything for like a full 20, 30 seconds after this happened. It was just that loud. The other super cool thing is that like right on this sideline, the 1994 team was still down there. And so if you look at some of the videos, those guys are like jumping for joy on that sideline because it's putting us up 14. The stadium's going ballistic. The 1994 team's going crazy. I was like, this cannot possibly be. It's like, it's heaven. This is unbelievable.
It's just, that one to me, like that one, it just was like, I had like 10 years of pent up emotion that came out of me there. Like my daughter was
all at once.
She was like, I've never seen you act like that. Like I told you this, but for now the 1,500 people listening that get to hear this story, I jumped on the guy's shoulders in front of me. Like I jumped on his back. I mean, the guy's 60 years old, and I was riding him around like he was my horse, and he's screaming. He was loving it. He's like, this is amazing. I was like, I truly had
just
riding him
like a pony. Ride that, absolutely. Just riding that pony and waving your arms around while your daughter watches in horror.
Complete out of body experience of like, it just felt like I felt like I knew we were going to win the game, but then you needed something like this to be like, oh, okay, now we're definitely winning. Of this, like, just gutter. I'm screaming and just like yelling up and down of like, high-fiving, hugging strangers around me. I mean, this will go down to me because I was thinking about this, like probably a top 3 play for me having witnessed in person. Yeah. With the only, I mean, so I was at Black 41 Flash reverse pass. So I was at the crouch pass. That one, that no one will ever top that one because of the gravity of it.
I was at the Western Camp Hail Mary. That was a good one.
Western Camp Hail Mary is a good one. And my number 2 is the Colorado Al Henry kick. And I would actually put that one awesome. Above. I'd put that one above this only because that was like literally a game-winning kick, and like we were all together. Fair. That was awesome. But this one, I'll remember this for the rest of my life. Of like, it just was a transformative, like, oh my God, we're actually back moment for me. Like I cannot believe we're actually good.
Yeah, I mean, this is the moment of the game that like I turns to our little brother Ray, and I was just like, "Listen, there's once it calmed down and it was actually reasonable to have a conversation, but I was like, there's a few moments where you're just gonna remember it forever. Like, please commit that one to memory because
Yeah.
that play, which obviously changed the game, ended up basically being the game-winning score because they didn't score more than 10 points. And just the volume and the extreme joy and just pure jubilation and just the unhinged Memorial Stadium,
Yeah.
fans hugging each other, the people crying. I mean, it was just like it was
It's
one of the
jubilation.
greatest moments of joy you could like draw up for Nebraska and all the frustrations that we've been through.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what I think I'm trying to live as much in this moment and enjoy this as much as possible. I do like this. That team stunk, and it stinks because they're probably
Yeah.
going to go like 3-9, and then it's
But
gonna be
I,
like,
but
wait,
I, but
why was the
like,
greatest moment of my season? Why was the greatest moment of my life like when we beat a 3-9 team? But for right now, it truly is this like
but the
to
lead
me
up
this.
is Shador and Travis and like top 5 pick and like, maybe
Well,
he will be, maybe he won't be, but like the fact that there was all that trash talk and hype and everything
absolutely.
about Shador, and then for it to happen to him making a horrible decision, but Tommy just making it happen. Like that's the price of admission right there.
Yeah. I mean, Evan, who just commented in because it's Colorado, is probably exactly right. I mean, it's just two of my top three favorite plays of all time are beating Colorado. So, like, I don't, yeah, it's like I don't feel bad about it. Yeah, thank you, Evan. I appreciate that. I don't feel bad about it. I just am like, that was not a good team. They're not going to beat a lot of teams.
Yeah.
But what a moment. I mean, that to me, it changed the game, it changed the season.
Fantastic.
So I want to make sure we talk about those. But what else direction you want to take this thing? Because there's a million ways we can go.
Yeah, I mean, we can dive into kind of our review of the game itself and just how everybody performed.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, starting with the defense first, I think. So the first half was just, I mean, complete bully ball. Like if you had to draw up a way that Nebraska was going to win this game, it was always going to be on defense and then just getting the job done on offense. I think that my big takeaway is that this D line can keep up with like anybody in the country. And they proved it. They won the game. They could have won this game single-handedly. They didn't even need all of these the points, honestly. But the D line won us this game. That was probably my biggest takeaway on defense. The second is that I'm much more confident in our defensive backs now than I was before the season because this is probably the best stable of receivers that you're going to play.
That's it.
Other than Ohio State and maybe USC. And just from a pure like keeping up with them, Tommy Hill ends up as the highest graded defensive back in the Big Ten.
Yep.
On the week. And then, these stats, I mean, unbelievable. Shedeur Sanders pressured on 22 dropbacks versus Nebraska. He was 5 of 15 for 45 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 sacks. His QBR was 1.8.
1.8.
Wow, that is just above 0. And that we only rushed 3 or 4 on 19 of those 22 dropbacks. I mean, that is insane. Like our D line is just stepping up. They're letting everybody else drop back. And we said that before the game. Like that was going to be the key. If our D line just burst through their offensive line, or the rest of the other 7 just drop back, and defend the pass, and did.
Yeah, I think. It's a great point. I think there's layers to it where, I think Colorado probably doesn't have. Yeah, I guess as people have commented, Colorado is like one of the worst rushing attacks in the country. But regardless, through 2 games, we've given up 72 rushing yards. That's crazy,
Okay.
right? Like you're gonna win. You're gonna win most games if teams can't rush for more than 35 yards. And Colorado had 17 rushing yards or something, but they were at negative 17 through the first half. So like it literally they couldn't run at all. And then when you are able to pressure like this, and you get Sanders off his game, and he's frustrated, and he was flustered, and you start the interceptions and the turnovers, which again, Connor Happer, friend of the show, says of like through 2 weeks, they've allowed 17 points, which is crazy. So 17 points, 72 rushing yards in 2 games. They've also scored 9 points, picked 6 and a safety, forced 4 turnovers, blocked a field goal, and allowed 7 first downs. 7 first downs. Is that right? In 2 games? Oh, 7 first downs on 24 third downs. I mean, unbelievable though. So the stats are great, but but I just think that the look of them too is, I mean, Ty Robinson is a psychopath. I mean, he's a menace. He is truly in the backfield.
Yeah, Ty, Nash, and Jamari. I mean, like all 3 of them, and then the thing that seems to be paying off a ton from last year to this year too is like the fact that they rotated in Cam Lenhart, Van Poppel, like Prince Will, like all those sophomores are difference makers this year too. And then like when you mix in, like our biggest variable was probably going to be, okay, we knew Tommy Hill was a very good D-back. We knew, Singleton could bring it. Hartzog, pretty solid, Buford solid, but like if you had to pick, that was going to be our weakest unit. And now it's looking like they've all taken a step forward as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's hyperbole a bit, but the last time I felt like this good, and I know we're 2 games in, I know we need to calm down, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I don't need to calm down. Everybody else needs to calm down. I'm still wearing.
Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want.
I was actually, I've had to like retire this is the year hat by like September 15th every single year, and I'm still wearing it, and people are loving it, so I'm sticking with it. Now it's my train of thought. Get all fired up. Like our comments have been so like, calm down. Like I don't want to calm down. No.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna absolutely ride this hype train into oblivion. I don't care where it's going.
There's truly like, I just think about one of the biggest gaps of the entire Frost era, and really the entire Riley era too, is I never really felt good about our defense ever. Right? Like Frost was always like, we're just gonna outscore them. And at some point we'll win 42-35 or something. This team is like, I get excited watching the defense. It truly feels like 2009. Like Ty Robinson's not as good as Susan, one of once in a generation talent. But he does blow things up, and so does Nash, and so does Jamari. And like the fact that those guys are in the backfield every play, you can't run. Sanders had no time, and if he has time, you've seen what he can do. He averages 450 yards per game, and he had 200. And even when he had a little bit of time, he found some action. But they were in the backfield so much that it's a great looking defense. I love the way Tony's got him coached up. I'm gonna be so sad when he leaves, but hopefully he stays for a long time. But they're good. I mean, it's a fun to watch team.
Yeah, 100%. They're helping us win the turnover battle big time. And then the biggest other thing is our time of possession. Like we are averaging, I'm looking it up, 36 minutes and 56 seconds of possession per game. A lot of that's just playing complementary football, like the defense getting off the field on those third downs, and then our offense is holding on to the ball pretty well. Like right now, we're 14 for 29 on conversions. On converting third downs, we're allowing 7 for 24. So, I mean,
our third down conversions on offense that's probably the biggest.
It's been huge.
Question mark. Well, on offense, though, it's been a question mark because I think we're 4 of 12.
That's already it's already better than last year, but you're near 50%. You probably want that over, between 50 to 60 something is going to be winning you a lot of games. But yeah, we can move on to the.
Should we talk offense?
Yeah. So
I put this up this morning because I was like thinking about it, and again, this is where nobody can tell me what to do. But for those not watching the live stream, through the first 2 games, because I was comparing it to last year, and yeah, I know last year was like a ridiculous season, but it happened, and we were there, and we had to live through it. Jeff Sims last year started the first 2 games 20 for 34, which is 58% completion rate, 220 yards and 7 turnovers, which is astounding. If you remember the Minnesota game, he had 3 turnovers, and then the Colorado game had 4 turnovers. Just a remarkable incompetence at the quarterback position, dropping snaps. Nothing was going in motion, literally dropping snaps and dropping fumbled snaps to the running back, horrific interceptions, just absolutely diabolically bad stuff. And we almost won both those games. So the fact that we were like in those games with 7 turnovers and a 58% completion percentage is remarkable. Flash forward to this year, which the number one thing we said all of last season is we're like, if we just have the 10th best quarterback in the Big Ten, we're probably an 8-win team. So you look at Dylan Raiola. He starts the year 42 for 57, a 74% completion percentage, which is one of the top in the country, 423 yards, and the most important one being 0 turnovers. And that to me is one of the biggest upgrades you could possibly imagine, not just from a no turnover standpoint, but he just has, and again, for his age, just this remarkable control and command of the offense. That, I mean, you saw Jeff Sims out there and you're like, this guy doesn't know like what day it is. He doesn't even know if he's on a football field right now. He's just completely lost. He didn't know the plays. He like was very confused the entire time. You look at Raiola, he is a 19-year-old that has complete control of the game, of the team, of Seno. He's got some 6-year seniors on the offensive line. You can just see him audibling out of. And so that calm and confidence and like just the way that he runs the offense. And then the fact that he, I think he's catching some, I don't want to say criticism, but he throws balls away. He just like, if things aren't there, like he went the wrong way on a handoff at one point in the third quarter and he just dove down, right? It's like, hey, it's a fresh mistake. It happens, but he didn't fumble, and if the guys, he looks through his reads and he throws it away pretty quickly. And so it's like those lead to 0 turnovers. And that to me has been one of the biggest differences of the last 2 games is compared to last year, especially is like no turnovers, very solid on offense, and just a great handle of the position.
Yeah. I mean, last year we had 3 turnovers before we had a point against Colorado.
Yeah. Not great.
I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. And, it's just, you got to embrace these chances to be correct. And everybody basically said, like, if you just limit the turnovers, you're going to win these games. And we just limited the turnovers. And good Lord, did we win a big game. And it starts at the quarterback position.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't, I think overall, the offense wasn't probably as. I think if anybody looks at this game, they're probably like, I wish we had won 56-10, 56-7 or something. And we had that chance, I think.
Well, yeah.
I just think like, you go into it and like all of the penalties that started getting called back in the third quarter and, kind of putting your foot on the gas and be able to do it. I just think they played a very different game. Here's the turnover margin I was looking for. Turnover margin through 2 games last year. 2023 were -7. 2024 were +3. So that's a 10 turnover differential in 2 games from last year. So that'll get
2 games.
Yeah, 2 games. Just 2 games.
-7 is insane.
-7 is insane. Yeah, we just never forced any turnovers either. So you can kind of have both going on. Yeah. I think that the offense did what it had to do. I feel like we dominated that first half in the sense that we were running the ball really well. Running the ball really well, completing passes. I think we did. I found it an exciting offense. We didn't have quite the like big plays that the UTEP had, like the over the shoulder deep throw to Nayor, or like the jump ball Banks touchdowns. But I thought we were pretty methodical in running the ball. I think most of the question marks kind of popped up in the second half when we didn't score. We didn't score the entire second half. And I've seen some of Rule like press conference being like, we played different football. We were, it did feel like, and I've seen a few people say this, like we just don't know how to play with a lead. And it was almost like they were milking clock right away. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm glad we won. I'm not going to criticize too much. I don't care. Like I've seen us lose that game so many times that it's like hard.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a good contingent of fans that was, doing math questions on like how many possessions that they're going to have left in that fourth quarter. Can Colorado possibly win this game right now? And
I think we've just seen it so many times. We've seen it, we've blown 17-point leads like it's nothing
before. Yeah, I mean the second half was tough. So the offense in the first half, like this was just a tale of getting the job done. One fortunate bounce on Dylan's touchdown pass, but he had some absolutely like ridiculous throws again. They weren't as publicized and stuff, but he had one that was just completely across his body. The one to Jalen Lloyd was like a 39-yard completion.
Across his
and
body.
he popped that thing like he threw that off balance across his body from hash to hash that probably went 40 something yards in the air. Like his arm strength is still ridiculous, and he was scrambling from pressure at that time. The receivers, so like I guess breaking it down by unit, the grades would end up being quarterback. Dylan definitely got the job done. I'd give him an A. He went 23 of 30. He didn't force things too much. Actually, the one throw he did really actually end up forcing ended up going for a touchdown after it went off a defender's hands.
Yeah.
Running backs, I think they got the job done. They didn't blow them away. We still were under 200 yards total. But like Dowdle just laying the lumber, stiff arming guys, choosing to run to contact. Ramir had a 70-yard touchdown that was pulled back. Ja'Cory Barney had one that was a 50-yard run that was pulled back. The problem ended up being, I wouldn't give the O-line their best performance. I'd put them in the B range. Again, they kept Dylan clean. Shador definitely mentioned that after the game, but they kept Dylan very clean. They just had a couple too many penalties. The receivers, they did their job catching the ball, but they had a couple of blocking penalties and holding penalties on the outside as well. And we just there's going to be games where you just can't afford to have a 70-yard touchdown reversed.
Well, and I think that's where
my grade.
I think a lot of it, and I've calmed down a little bit because I think in the heat of the moment watching it, and I'm looking at our drive chart for the, we went 3 and out first drive of the second half, and we went 4 and out on the second drive. Like there was 3 or 4 3 and outs that weren't necessarily great, but in the moment it felt terrible. Having rewatched it now, we did have, and you even look at the stats, like, oh man, we only ran for 130, 140 yards or whatever. Well, if Vermeer scores that touchdown, that's another 70, right? And so all of a sudden you're at a 210-yard, rushing performance.
That looks pretty good.
And same with, Ja'Cory Barney had a 30-yard gain that got wiped back. And so the offense has excitement to it. Like Barney's doing some awesome stuff. I think Ramirez doing some stuff, but it all just kept getting pulled back. Like we had almost I think it was 4. Somebody added it up because there was 21 penalties called in the second half on 45 plays. 40% of the second half had a penalty, which is nuts to think about. Like it's basically every other play there's a penalty, and most of them for us, I think it ended up being 130 yards in lost yardage. Yeah, so again, if you look at our
biggest part,
you look at our total stats on the game, and I should have these things pulled up, but add 130 to that.
Yeah,
and
12
you go from
and all, but most of them being offensive, and then a lot of them are just being you're running to the end zone, getting penalties. It's a big problem.
Well, there it is. I'm looking. So we had 334 total yards, 185 passing, 150 rushing. So if you add 334 plus those 160, you're at a 500-yard rushing, 500-yard performance, and everyone's happy. And it's 42-10. So I think there was an element of, it is unfortunate. I was also, this was a Damon Benning thing. So he's a lot smarter than me, but was saying how Barney is because he's so elusive and so hard to, nobody knows where he's going, including his linemen or including his downfield blockers, like his tight ends, that a lot of the holding calls were coming from that. Cause he's jetting in and out. And they're I don't know where he is. And so they just hold. So
he's like a water bug.
Yeah, it's it is what it is. I'd rather have him be exciting and dynamic, but I think they're all learning lessons. But James here asked, how much offense and defense are we still hiding, though, by not blitzing and not showing our hand in the second half when already in full control? I think there's something to this, because I think while we did have some exciting plays that were happening, the drive that that gave me a lot of confidence, I was like, okay, we're fine, was when they just sat in milk clock. And I was specifically look at this drive. It was a 12-play, 52-yard drive that ended up in a punt, but we took off 6 minutes of the clock. It was late in the third quarter. Yeah. And I went from, because I was one of those, I was counting. I was like, okay, so there's 20 minutes left in the game. We're up by 28. Can we blow this? And then we milked 6 minutes off the clock. And it was very, very clearly we were running the clock down to 0, starting in, late in the third quarter, which
Yeah.
That's not how we're going to run the offense. That's not in a high pressure game. We're not going to be running the play clock down to 0 every single play. And then it was like a Ramir rush for 6, a Ramir rush for 4, a Ramir rush for 1, play clock. Like we were just bleeding clock that whole time.
Yeah.
So I would agree. This was not like, I think the first half was our offense and it was pretty good. Second half is just a weird, like, don't lose this game. I think people would probably prefer like foot on the gas type stuff, but we're not ready for that.
I mean, the if you had to criticize, like it'd be the untimely penalties, the perimeter blocking, and then I mean that's honestly pretty much those would probably be the two biggest things for the offense to end up improving because
I think the fact that we can't
improve
kick
those things.
Oh no, we're talking about offense. Yeah, the fact that we can't kick is I don't. 10 years. 10 years we haven't been able to kick a field goal. I don't know.
Yeah,
how
we can move to special teams. The only improvement is everything. No, I feel great about our return game. I think they did fine again. We're not muffing punts. We're bringing things back. We're averaging just over 20 yards per kick return, which is fine. We haven't popped one yet, but I think Ja'Cory Barney is going to. And then Alvano is a complete head case. Like, what is going on? I mean, this guy's high school kicker of the year. And I at first thought it was a case of the yips. It's bad. Do we think he's just bad?
I mean, I truly, it's he's missed now like 7 field goals. I think he's basically
he was 9 for 15 last year, right? Or we were 9 for 15.
He was I think that's right because he was 9 for 15, which is under 60%. And now he's missed another, so he's missed 7 kicks out of 16, 17. I mean, you just can't be making, and these aren't like, we're not asking him to kick bombs.
I think it was a 32-yarder.
32-yard chip shot that like I just think that kind of changes the entire complexion of like the offense when you're in the red zone and you're like, oh, we got to score, like we got to go for it. You need points.
Well, what was interesting was on that drive that you mentioned, we were in his alleged range. I think it would have been like he hit the 55-yarder against Purdue. So if you're calling that 55 is his range, it was like a 53, 54-yarder at the time when Raiola caught the ball and shotgun and punted.
Yeah. I mean,
so they're losing some trust.
Yeah. Well, he might be hurt a little bit, is what I'm hearing. But I mean, regardless, come on. It's like,
can anyone else at the school kick?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, all right, Rule. Like this is where you got to. Rule makes $9 million a year. You got to find one freaking kid that can kick a ball. Like it's insane.
Well, I mean.
You got to find one guy, man. Come on, like you've done everything.
I want him
else,
to just get better and just fix it and just stop mixing kicks. But like we've been, I mean, gosh,
I just don't know how you like.
All right, how many chances?
Does he kick PATs?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay, so he's at least fine there. That's something. It's better than like because I mean, all the Frost guys couldn't even kick PATs. Like that's like that was like the most shocking thing of all time. They can't kick PATs, but. Anyway, diabolical.
Right. So defense, great. Offense, room for improvement. Special teams. Rule said it was the worst special teams performance that he's seen in a while. I actually thought Buscini did a very good job. He pinned him deep. He had a lot of net yards punting, but had one blocked. It wasn't his fault. Special teams, I'd say room for improvement. The overall wrap up for Colorado is just like, this was the most jubilation I have felt during a football game in quite some time.
Well, I think that it's a perfect game, I think, in a lot of ways, because I do think if you finish 42-10, 42-3, something like that, players probably do get – I would say they're probably getting confident right now, but they're a little overconfident if they had blown out like that. Like, I think a 28-10 with all the mistakes is, like, kind of Coach Rule's dream. Like, think about the film room that he can go take them in right now of like, I can't believe you guys did this, 3 and outs and all this stuff. Put your foot on the gas, like all these mistakes, this holding call, 12 penalties in the second half, like all this stuff. Like, I think that's a great coaching moment for him where like if they won 49-0, he's probably like, like, how do I motivate
this was
these
pretty
guys?
Good.
yeah. That was about as perfect a game as you can imagine. So
Yeah, don't change anything.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Terrence Crawford apparently called the team out on their fourth quarter performance and stuff as well. And that was another bit from before the game that was just freaking awesome. Bud Crawford leading them out of the tunnel as well. He had the 94 team and then the world pound for pound champion of the boxer of the world leading you out. Oh my God. That place was on fire. It was awesome. But he came out after the game and told them, he was just like, hey, listen, this ain't just about Colorado. You got a whole season ahead of you, and you got to get a lot better than that.
Totally. Well, so here's and this like the conclusion of what's been awesome for me and for us and for like Husk guys. Like I keep saying like I've been saying we started this 14 years ago in 2010. Our Husk guys platform. We've grown it to we've got 100,000 fans. Shout out to the 2,000 folks who are joining us right now on this podcast, which is awesome. But we built this entire thing while not winning. And I for 14 years I've been like, what happens like if all of the things that we say, this is the year, we're back, Nebraska's the best, like Nebraska's back, all this stuff, what if we ever actually get back? Right? Like we're positioned perfectly as Husk guys to be like, yeah, we're back. But when everybody else catches on is what gets me excited. And for those not looking at this, I've got 3, and I'm taking some screenshots of like Adam Gorney, who is the head writer for Rivals. He said Nebraska. He wrote this whole article about how Nebraska's cool again, and it's this whole thing about how like and so Nebraska's cool again. Nebraska's like it's cool to go to a Nebraska game, as opposed to like so many of these games during the Frost era, the Riley era, any of these previous eras. Was like you're gonna go there, like so they lose again. They lose on national TV, kind of like we're saying, but like this. Nebraska being cool again with like Bud Crawford coming out and the Huskers coming out and like a night game and the experience and the drone show and the light show and how many recruits came. I think it's super cool. I love the second picture I've got here. Like it's my favorite picture of the night of Will Compton and Taylor Lewan from Bussin' with the Boys with Dylan Raiola flashing the Rolex, doing the Shador. They're dancing the Shador in the locker room. Just like, swagger coming back, confidence coming back. Pick Six Previews, who's at our tailgate, a friend of the pod. He said Nebraska was the center of the college football universe on Saturday night. It was absolutely electric all night. And so like when these national writers come in and see what we've been saying for a decade, and then for it to come true, it's super cool. And then the last two I took, again, like when these national guys, Joel Klatt, Kirk Herbstreit, Josh Pate, when they come in, and Joel Klatt said this too, he said, he's a Colorado guy. He's like, I don't think people are ready for Nebraska to be Nebraska again. I played there twice. If they actually get this thing going, Lord have mercy, which I agree. Like, if we get this thing going, those fans are going bananas. And then Kirk Herbstreit similarly said, this is incredible. Like, what an experience. So these national guys, when they kind of come in and jump in, like, I think these national guys want Nebraska to be good. And I think they've been willing it for a long time, and we just haven't been, because we move the needle and people show up and we sell out stadiums and people are fired up about it. And we have been tripping over ourselves for a decade. That like, if we come roaring back, it is so good for the sport for us to be back, and that kind of to me is different. It's like, I've been screaming, this is the year forever. But like when you hear Joel Klatt and Kirk Herbstreit and Josh Pate being like, I think this team's actually good. You're like, oh, wait, it's not just Kool-Aid. It's not just Kool-Aid.
Yeah. You kind of have to almost like compare it to like, imagine if Alabama with Kalen DeBoer, if he was like their Frank Solich, and then Alabama was just bad for 25 years, or like, just something
forever,
like completely unexpected, right? Like they're at the top of the college football universe, like we were. And then all of a sudden it's like a friend goes missing and you're just like, we kind of want this guy back in our lives a little bit. Like what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so they're all trying to, I think they're just kind of happy to see like, okay, maybe now is the turning point. But speaking of swag, should I get into the whole swag player of the week too?
Let's reintroduce it, because for folks who maybe are new, we got 2,000 folks on the line here. Let's get a little reintroduction to it.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do this back when we had a blog. Don't look it up. There's probably some old things that we need to delete and to scrub from the internet on there.
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. It's too late. But the swag player of the week was essentially all about that, like bringing the swagger back to Lincoln, like we used to have in the 90s, back when you'd make a big play, back when you'd tear your helmet off and running into the end zone. The celebrations, the just having fun with football and just like the enjoying beating a fellow man into the ground, like that's what it's all about. And so we chose a player basically every week that made the biggest swag play of the week, or just had the best performance of the week. So my selection this week, drum roll please, is Mekhi Bear. Started with his interview before the game when he said, they think they're just going to come in here, ... I wish them luck. And flip to the next slide here. For those who have video, you're going to want to watch this. But
let's see if this works.
From the opening kick, Bear 0-0 opening kick. But I sincerely hope you are alive. It is highlighted here. He absolutely decimates him. I mean,
that's awesome.
He knocks him into oblivion. I mean, the first kick of the game, and then we go 3 and out. He destroys him. He ended up having a pass breakup. He had a tackle for loss. He had 6 tackles. Like, he talked the talk. He walked the walk. And he let him know on his pass. It literally looks like the guy dies. On his pass breakup.
That's like that. That's like that.
He
old
does
school,
the finger point to their bench. And he's pointing up at our student section, staring down the Colorado bench on his pass break. I was like, this is fantastic. He came to play. He brought the swag.
Just obliterated. Good grief.
Yeah, you gotta look it up. We'll post it and stuff tonight as well. But
did you see the cut up that the team did on the official account, their social media account? I mean. Yeah. When you've got the main, when that's getting approved on the main social media account that we can talk trash on that thing, I'm like, oh, this is I think it's even, I don't know if it's a Trev Alberts thing or a Troy Danon thing or whatever it is, but just to straight up pull out all the receipts that they did to be all the national guys that were talking about, I'm like, you can't talk that trash unless you back it up. Dude backed it up. He backed it up big time.
It really did. It was awesome to see and great for him because Javen Wright was supposed to be starting there too. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great comment from Nebraska Blue Blood. He did. He also said that. I forgot to mention that. He said they're going to need 2 guys to block him on kickoff. And the opening kick, he literally took this guy's head off. It was awesome.
Awesome. You want to talk about Stewart?
Yeah. So that is my last conclusion. So listen, I'm not an NFL draft scout. And I am wrong many times on Husker players, feeling like, our entire first string should go in the first round in the past. So I've been wrong.
Haven't. Yeah.
And they haven't, as it turns out. Are we sure that Shedeur is a top 5 pick? My rationale here, obviously he's on a bad team, not totally his fault, but versus ranked teams, he's 1-5. His only win was last year's first game. Against a pretty mid TCU team versus Nebraska.
What do you mean only win? They won. What do you mean his only win?
His only win versus the ranked team.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
You're right. They're 1-5 against him otherwise. Versus Nebraska, he's 24. His QBR of 24.4 was his worst in the last 2 years. That puts him at 57th in the country overall after 2 games. There's a lot of statements on this guy's super elusive, he gets away from pressure so well. He had minus 77 total rush yards in 2023, 52 sacks. A lot of that's on his O-line. I get it. He had minus 30 rush yards versus Nebraska, more of the same. And then in his last 8 games, though, you've kind of seen his completion percentage tick down too. The first 6 games last year, he was fantastic. His last 8 games that he's played, he's only had 2 games with a completion percentage over 63%, and he's only had 2 games over 250 yards passing. He did neither of those against Nebraska, of course. And then really just some leadership questions and some care questions. He said, quote, of course, when you're going to be able to run the ball consistently, that opens up the pass, But it's just you've got to understand what your team's good at. Why would we keep running the ball when we get out there and there's a must-get situation and we don't get it? He also said, how many times did Raiola get touched or how many times did he get hit? Just dragging his O-line under.
And he left the game.
And then he left with 2 minutes left for an alleged head injury that apparently didn't actually happen. And
yeah, but so many.
You just left.
I guess I can go. I agree with everything you're saying. I think it is. It's gonna be interesting to watch what does happen because Deion's trying to will him through this publicity machine to be a top 5 pick, and then he's trying to dictate him to go to the Cowboys and some other teams or whatever. But there are, he had to go to the locker room even though he never got checked in the medical tent, and he played 3 or 4 plays after getting hurt. But it's they're he needed to get off the field so the fans didn't rush the field and attack him. What are you talking about? The made up thing. He's very clearly, Deion has made it very clear that he's above the team, and he's treated differently, and he's got Ferraris and all sorts of nice cars and nice watches. So there's definitely some character concerns. There's definitely some leadership concerns. But I do think, I've watched enough of his games. He's pretty darn good. Kid can play,
and he can make play every throw on the field. He can play. He can scramble. He can absolutely play. I don't really doubt that, but if you're an NFL, if you're going to drop, $100 million plus on somebody, are you hearing some of these interviews and saying, "Oh, I'm watching these games, and now your accuracy seems to be getting maybe a little worse. Not getting away from, you're not as elusive as we thought." I don't know. There's just a little bit of me that's just saying, all right, maybe we don't take a risk on somebody that's going to bail on his team like this. That's all. I think he's a great player. I actually really respect Travis Hunter. He came out after the game and was just giving props to Nebraska and stuff. Classy guy. He's a fantastic athlete. I think he should definitely get drafted higher than Shedeur.
Yeah, he's interesting though.
That's about all I got.
He's just little. That's the only thing I thought about him.
Athlete, though.
He's a phenomenal athlete. He's got that Devontae Smith, that's his name, right? The Alabama kid who's now at Philadelphia, where you're he was the smallest guy on the field. There's just far and away the best player. He's definitely faster than most everybody. But he's just little, and you could see he struggled to tackle. He struggled to tackle Ja'Cory Barney, struggled to tackle and bring down Dowdell. And so stuff like that, you're kind of I don't know. He's not the biggest D-back, but he can play. They both can play. And that's what, that's where I leave the game so fired up about this is I do think those are 2 very, very good players, and they're going to rip apart some teams, but it's hard to say how much is Shedeur and how much is the Deion clown show came fully through. That to me was probably the biggest thing was it was everything I thought it was going to be. I'll find this. This is a good picture. There you go. The clown show of and this, then we can move on from Colorado, but the everything about it was, it's just on shaky ground, and it's built on hype exclusively, and 60 transfers and 40 kids left the team last year, and he cuts kids and all this stuff that it's just a very unserious approach. And I'm there's people out here that have given their lives to knowing every high school in their local area, and all they do is live at high schools, and they recruit. And Kirby Smart sleeps at the office, these guys, and he just sort of everything's unserious about it, and it's oh, who's your D-line coach? Warren Sapp. He's never coached anywhere. It's that's an unserious approach to defensive line plays. Well, he was good in '94. Well, yes, so was The Rock, but are you going to hire The Rock to coach? These guys who
maybe
are. Yeah, it's these guys who
live be great for hype.
Right. These guys who live and die though, coaching the game. It's a very unserious approach, and it shows. Their team's not well coached. They've got a bad plan. They don't play well together. They have no idea what's going on. They're all about hype. Anyway, that was the Deion thing for me. But what was the last? Oh, I did want to get this take before we move on. Let me find this guy. Hang on. How warranted do you think? Well, actually, first I want to make sure everybody knows. So, highest graded true freshman, Ja'Cory Barney was the highest graded true freshman by 85. I think he's a special talent. And then, and another site on CBS Sports, Tony White was the Big Ten Defensive Coordinator of the Week. It's well earned, well deserved. I hope he sticks around forever.
Yeah.
What I would say, power ranking wise, like hype train is exploding. How realistic do you think this new, like, we've basically gone from 10th and 11th in most people's books to like right around 5th. So you've got Ohio State first, USC second, Penn State third, Oregon fourth. Oregon looks terrible. Nebraska fifth. Michigan got obliterated in sixth. Illinois 7, Wisconsin 8, Iowa 9, Rutgers 10, and then the rest. I mean, is it completely overblown? Is it like, where do you think in relation to the rest of the country, or at least the rest of the Big Ten?
That is tough because, like, I think this is one of those dynamic things that just, a few games from now, even if we're undefeated, we might drop because, like, we might just see, okay, Colorado just stinks.
Yeah, right.
So this is one of those wins that, like, it gets national eyeballs and it looks good on paper, I guess. I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know that we're above Wisconsin. I do think we're above probably the rest as far as we can tell. It's just too small of a sample size. Like Michigan, I mean, good Lord, they have so much talent on defense. They lost to an extremely good Texas team, as much as it pains me to say that. I don't know. It's too early. I like to think that we are better than they projected before the season, which was the 8, 9, 10, 11 kind of range. Are we 5th? That seems really good. Maybe a little bit too good.
As we were walking to our seats was that a kickoff right as it started? I think it was. The news broke that Iowa had lost to Iowa State.
That was awesome.
That was
awesome. The crowd went crazy.
Emotion. Yeah, so I think the two big ones are Notre Dame getting upset by Northern Illinois, and then Iowa and Iowa State, or Iowa losing to Iowa State. I mean, I didn't watch the game at all, but I've talked to some Iowa folks. It seems like they dominated most of the game, and then they just completely screwed it up. And that's a classic way to lose. It's just like right at the end, Iowa State came back. But it's good to have a loss in their column because I hate when they start like 8-0, and you're like, why did they start 8-0? This team stinks. That was a weird one. Oregon, we watched that game until 1 a.m. or whatever that was, and they don't look that good. That's 2 straight games that they were kind of not that good. But we don't play them, so
it's their offensive line seems to be letting them down.
Doesn't seem that important. But everybody else, I mean, Illinois had a big win, Indiana had a big win, Wisconsin plays Alabama tomorrow or Saturday, so that'll be 2-1. I think they're going to get crushed. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think Rutgers is solid, and then Wisconsin's got Alabama this weekend, so we're about to see what they're made of.
Yeah, they got nothing. All right, should we talk a little Northern Iowa?
Yeah, the next game. I mean, I think this is one of those games where, of course, it's of all of the teams on the schedule, they are the least ranked, the lowest regarded. So they've had a head coach. He's been there. He's one of like the longest tenured coaches in all of football. I believe he's the longest in FCS. His name is Mark Farley. It's his 24th season. They were 6-5 last year. That was good enough for them. The FPI has given us an 83.3% chance to win. Quick note on the FPI, just a quick random sidebar here. ESPN's FPI apparently said that Notre Dame had the best chance of going 12-0. So I do not trust this thing at all anymore. Whatever that is in this FPI, get it out. It's garbage. Yeah. But it does say we have an 83.3% chance to win. I'd put that closer to 100 without it actually being 100. This is our first game versus them. Vegas preseason had us at -24. I'd be interested to see what the line is at now. I have not re-looked it up yet, but we're 2-0 against the spread so far. I believe I will be taking them to cover.
I think it's up to 30. I think it's 30 now.
Yeah, that might make some sense. They had an O coordinator. His name was Luke Falk. He was a Washington State O coordinator. That was back when they had Mike Leach there. He was an air raid runner. He resigned before even really starting. And they had 2 starters returning on defense, a defense which allowed 26.6 points per game. This is a get it over with in the first half game. Like this is a UTEP type game.
Yeah, we're losing you, so I'll keep talking over you. But I was looking this up, so it's such an interesting thing in college football where I was looking at their game. They just played St. Thomas in Minnesota last week. They beat them 17-10. St. Thomas in Minnesota was a Division III team up until I think 2 to 3 years ago, and they finally moved up to Division I. So they're not exactly playing Power 5 conference football, but it is wild. I was looking at where they're playing and what it looked like. They were playing in front of like 500 people, which is pretty crazy. And so to go from 500 people all the way to a game playing in front of 90,000 is nutso. There has been seen a lot of folks comment on this. I'm going to bring this up here. Troy Dannon is a Northern Iowa alum, so that'd be a big game for him. And then Megan Franklin is a Nebraska alum, which is kind of a crazy flip of the experience. It's not a team we can take lightly. They've been running the ball well. They're running the ball well. They don't throw the ball very well, but they do have a running back who seems to be a pretty good player. So you can't take them lightly, but these guys are not playing, serious football. They're playing St. Thomas. They're playing Valparaiso. This will be the biggest game on their schedule all season. So it is a game that, we just got to run the ball. Don't have it be a let up game. Don't keep them in the game at halftime and have things start panicking. So I think as long as we do that, I feel pretty good about our ability to hold them off. So it'll be an exciting game. And we'll, we got you back coming in. See if you're back here. Nope.
Internet just booted me out.
Internet booted. Well, I already covered it. I basically covered the whole gap. Andrew's back, but
thanks for taking care of that. I had some big stat drops for us though.
Well, you can hit the stat drops. I basically just said they're playing St. Thomas, who just went from a Division III up to a Division I program. We did cover that Troy Dannon is a Northern Iowa alum, and I did cover that Northern Iowa's AD is a Nebraska alum. So we've covered those things, but hit us with some stats. I just said they're a good running team. They're not a good passing team. We should be able to take care of business. But what's that? What kind of stats you got for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest is just their running back Ty Edwards is like the only slightly scary specimen. Not sure about his speed. He's got 315 yards rushing through 2 games, though. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. And that is a specimen. He's like a Derrick Henry sized human running the ball. So they like to play power football with him. This Aiden Dunn kid, he's just not really been getting it done through the air as their quarterback. He was 11 for 25 last game for a cool 99 yards passing. But Ty Edwards, that's kind of the name to watch out for. He averaged 9.4 yards per carry last game. That was against St. Thomas, Minnesota, not the Black Shirts. But that would be probably the big one to look out for. The other one is Amari Prosecton. He's their backup running back as well. Hickson, something like that. Anyway, whatever. Don't care. We're going to stuff them anyways. Not going to matter. And then their defense has been a problem recently. 26.6 points per game last year. Only 2 returning starters. This is like you thought the second half of Colorado was bad. This is a get right game. This is a get back on track, get the starters out pretty much by halftime, I think.
Do you think we covered?
Yes.
You do?
I don't think
30 at 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see them. I see them as a max of double digits. Like,
yeah,
I just feel so much more confident in the Black Shirts. Like, this is a team that if their strength is running the ball, it's kind of a, bring it on. Like, we're built to stop the run. Yeah. I don't see us giving up. If they run the ball every down, like, I don't know, 150 yards, if they pass for 50 to 100, like, they're not going to, they might gash us a little bit here and there, but like, we're built to stop the run. And I trust our D-line against a Northern Iowa offensive line. I do think that this is a great game to build some depth. This is a great game to get right quickly.
Yep.
This is a great tune-up game because you've got the Big Ten slate the week after that. And like, this is the perfect game to basically ease from Colorado to Northern Iowa to, okay, now let's get into this, into the Big Ten slate. Obviously, like, we have lost to some not good teams in the past. James Coughlin, thank you for mentioning Georgia Southern. I would appreciate if you never mentioned it ever again for the rest of your life. However,
Troy's another one.
Troy, nice, loved that. Northern Illinois, I think, beat us at 1.2. But this is not going to be that game. Like, this team just seems to have a different mentality. Our D line versus their O line again is going to just, like, that's going to be where this game is won. If they rely on the run this much, which they are going to, and they hope to, that's where this game's going to end up being won. And I think that I love our chances.
Love it. All right. So we cover at 30. That's going to be our, that's what we got. Feel pretty good.
Yeah. Are you saying we cover?
Yeah. You've talked me into it. Yeah, I think so. I just was like, I don't know. I don't know why we didn't. We're putting up points, but we're not like, I don't know, the way that like Tennessee or Alabama or Georgia are putting up like 50 plus, like 40-7 against UTEP, 28-10. Like, I could see it being 35-7, which I guess, no, that's not covering, right? Yeah, there you go. So I think there's, I guess that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe we just put up 35 and then shut it down again type thing. But 30 is, yeah, I think we probably cover.
True.
Yeah.
And then,
all right, folks. We got a 2,500 folks who joined us this evening. Thank you guys so much for listening, as always, to the Husk Guys podcast. We'll be back next week. Check out huskguysstore.com. Check out pipeline-jerky.com. Join us for our next tailgate with Omaha Steaks. We got a lot of good stuff going on. Thanks for joining us, and go big.